Frieza and Goku had been staying on planet Yarded for a while and had settled into somewhat of a routine. Frieza had trying for the first few days but eventually grew bored and tired of it and now mostly just sat in the arena as Goku trained and he watched. The Yardettes had become more welcoming even to Frieza, whom they had seemed wary of even though sometimes they still flinched when he tried to scare them for a laugh, much to the nagging of Goku. "Hey, Frieza, I am going to finally ask them if they can train me," Goku said, bringing him out of his musing. The Frost Demon had been unfortunate to be the only one subjected to Goku's ideas on what the Yardettes could do based on how their chakra seemed to work. "Really? Finally. At least now it will be easier for me to sleep," Frieza said, getting up from his spot. If there was one thing that he had seen that the Yardettes did was how they sat in a small circle and meditated as Goku had explained to him. Frieza roughly remembered some people doing it during his encounters, but he had never taken a moment to try it for himself. "I mean, imagine how much we could learn. Especially if you join me in training," Goku said, giving a few head pats much to the annoyance of Frieza. He was about to engage into another lecture with Goku about how he, Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, had no need for training. Till he was interrupted. Elder, the pirates are coming. The pirates are coming." A much younger Yardette had come screaming, bursting into the training arena Frieza and Goku were currently on. They both just stared at him in surprise because there was no one else here but them. "Is that so then?" a voice said from somewhere in the room, making Frieza go into a readied stance, but Goku was seemingly just impressed as the older Yardette appeared out of thin air. Goku was clapping his hands in amusement whilst Frieza just seethed. He didn't understand how both he and Goku had been fooled by this lower class being. "Then let's meet them head on," the elder Yardette said as he walked to the door. Something else had got to Goku's attention in this whole exchange. The fact that Frieza had got into a fighting stance in front of him but hadn't realized it himself, and he wasn't going to say anything. The two Yardettes left the room and Frieza felt a tap on his shoulder, making him give a small flinch, which Goku noticed. "It's just me. This is why I said you should learn to sense ki." Much less surprises then. This time Frieza agreed, because if a weaker being like a Yardette was able to sneak up on him, he could only imagine what someone with other intentions might do with it. A few of the more heavily armored Yardettes had come out as much of the others stayed inside their homes as Goku and Frieza joined them outside. "Come on out everyone, your new rulers are here." They both arrived to see a large armada of ships hovering just about the small city as one being stood in front of a large group of warriors flying in the air shouting out demands. It was already wearing on Frieza's nerves as they were loud and had interrupted the time he and Goku had allocated to training and meditating. It had taken a while for them to find the balance between Goku's constant nagging about wanting to know every single thing about him. His interest had also been piqued by the Saiyan, as he wanted to know who the being that managed to defeat him had come from and experienced. The exchanges had started small but now can often go into long tangents. Frieza was busy daydreaming with his arms folded and Goku's arm wrapped around his shoulder. He didn't know when they had started to just openly act close, but he suspected it had something to do with Goku. The Saiyan could seemingly never keep his hands to himself even when it wasn't approached. The Saiyan had seemed so intrigued about everything about the Frost Demon's body. He always cited that although they had aliens on his home planet, they were very touchy about people approaching them even curiously. Goku had mentioned the being named Kami. "Yay, he is like the other half of Piccolo, and I remember the punishment he gave me when I touched his antennas," the Saiyan had said, investigating the purple-colored parts of his body. Goku had visibly shuddered thinking of the punishment, much to Frieza's amusement. His daydreaming was interrupted by a voice. "Hey you Frost Demon!" the obnoxious voice shouted. Frieza had been thrown out of his memory as he looked around, because surely this filth was not addressing him. "Lord Frieza, like a mere commoner. After looking around, he cast a look back at what appeared to be the speaker of the leader. "Are you talking to me, corpse?" he asked, never shouting but his voice seemingly projecting loud enough for everyone to hear. The speaker stuttered momentarily as if not expecting the voice. Ah. Yes, he said, much to the amusement of Frieza that he started laughing, first slowly then loudly, managing to hold his side but somehow staying within Goku's grasp. Before anyone could tell what was going on, a death beam pierced the speaker's chest before he fell to the ground. The group of warriors around the speaker were all too stunned to speak as they just stared at his body. "Frieza," Goku said with a tiredness to his voice, "we don't know if they were bad people." Everyone including the Yardats just stared at him. He immediately felt the pressure from all the stares before he was nervously waving, "I mean, maybe they're good." But no one was buying it and he could see all the deadpan stares as he let out a final huff and felt a tail flick to the back of his head. It had become something Frieza did a lot whenever he didn't something the other would call stupid. He could guess this counted as one. "Not bad at all," another voice seemingly projected out of the lead ship as a being descended from it. "I am the queen of the pirates. With Frieza now gone, this whole universe is mine." Goku and Frieza just turned to each other for a moment before turning back. Frieza had told Goku that him being removed from the universe was a double-edged sword because many other people who stayed away because of him would come out of the shadows. "I'm afraid my amusement is now wearing thin and I wish to return to my meditation. So as to not wear more on my companion's consciousness, please do kindly turn around with your tails between your legs before you meet an expected end." "Is that so, Frieza?" That seemed to remove the smug look on Frieza's face. "And pray tell how you know it was me?" he asked, not even bothering to entertain talking anymore with this so-called queen. "You have a similar look to your father. So the information was wrong then. You weren't defeated, you ran," the pirate queen said as she laughed. "There's a bounty to find you, dead or alive you are worth something. And now that you don't have an army protecting you, there's nothing you can do." Frieza was not so much interested in them but the information they told him. "Who placed a bounty on me?" he asked, his tone laced with a malice that made everyone shiver except the pirates. "Your father, of course. But enough talking, time for you to die." Frieza was listening to the pirate but something else entirely stood out to him. The Yardats didn't seem surprised to hear that he was Frieza, almost as if they knew the whole time. That would explain how they acted towards him. They probably could sense ki like Goku had concluded and already knew who he was the whole time. "Commence orbital bombardment." There was a shout as many objects suddenly appeared from space, dropping fast. There were so many, and from here Frieza could tell some of them looked like they had belonged to some of his forces, which made sense to him. Various buildings were destroyed as Goku and some of the other Yardats tried to stop the ordnance. Many buildings were destroyed, but Frieza was noticing the distinct lack of panic from the Yardats and the lack of bodies in the destroyed buildings and area. It was suspicious to say the least and deceptive to say another. "I'm afraid I've tolerated your tantrum long enough, and need to stop you before you destroy our lodgings." "After you sure about that?" the pirate queen said, charging up her ki. Normally it would have been something to take notice of if not for the current company she was with. "Goku, is she anything to worry about?" Goku let out a huff. "No, she's not. But we're definitely teaching you how to sense ki after this." Frieza just gave a shrug with a small smile. Goku let out a huff as he turned around, not wanting to see what was about to happen, as Frieza stepped in front of the armada. "Time to clean the universe of you trash," Frieza said as the death ball expanded from his finger, as it grew in size much to the fear of the pirates. The pirate queen scoffed. "You won't stop me, you won't us." Which reignited a memory in his mind. "You know Saiyan once said that, but I'm delighted it's not the same for you." The giant death ball moved towards the armada with lightning speed before it detonated, the explosion so loud it masked the screams of the pirates. The world went a bright red, nearly blinding everyone in the area. But as it moved away, Goku heard Frieza land next to him with a smile on his face. I have been so pinned up, it felt good to have that outlet. There was no longer any trace of the large armada in the sky as Goku watched Frieza's tail wag around. Happily, he thought, maybe I will join you for training.